So we're live and recording. Okay, so hello everyone and welcome to our next Museum.io talk on Beyond Reality, Virtual Worlds in the Arts. Next Museum.io is a digital platform for co-creation and co-creation initiated by the NRW-Forum in Düsseldorf. That's where I'm sitting at the moment, and my name is Alina, by the way, and by the Museum Ulm, where my dear colleague Marina is in charge for the project. If you want to know more about the project, you can just check the link to our website down below. Today, we want to talk about virtual realities, since the term is no longer limited to the experience with glasses or headsets, but describes entire worlds in which the virtual and the physical merge in an interactive and symbiotic way. And we are very happy to welcome two experts on this field on stage. So welcome, Victoire and Manuel. And thank you so much for being with us today here.
Hello.
Hello.
Thank you to you.
Thank you. So Victoire is the co-founder of Fabbula, a cultural practice dedicated to worlding with digital media. And she's also the managing director of the VR festival in Arles, as well as the artistic director of Les Ailleurs, a festival at Gaîté Lyrique in Paris. Today, she will talk about her work, Les Ailleurs, as well as an upcoming project called Palais Augmenté. Manuel Rosner is an artist based in Berlin. Since almost 10 years, he has been creating digital spaces and virtual worlds. And in 2017, he designed a digital extension of the NRW-Forum and co-created a VR exhibition called Unreal. And I'm very happy to announce that he will be also part of the Ailleurs Biennale at NRW-Forum this summer. Yeah. And today, Manuel will give us a short tour through his first solo show at Königsgalerie's digital space, curated by Annika Meyer and Johann König, called, surprisingly, This Were the Works. But before we dive in, just some short info for the audience. Some of you already discovered the chat on the right-hand side. You can put your comments, feedback, anything in there. And you also have a Ask a Question button down at the bottom bar, where you can put questions to the speakers, and we try to get them all answers. And you can even get on stage if you want to, so just give us a hint in the chat, and yeah, you can join us on stage. But for now, I would say, Victoire, the stage is yours.
Marina, Alina, do you hear me well, everyone? Is this sound good? So I just wanted to say hi. So my name is Victoire Thevenin. I'm based in Arles, which is in southern France, where we're lucky to have like a lot of cultural actors, players in the field of, cultural, basically like many fields, literature, image, with the biggest festival here. And we are working on a project which is really about worlding with digital media and involved in different fields, which are production, distribution, and curation. So organizing events and festivals, and after 12 to 18 months of like postponing and organizing stuff, everything is basically opening up like in the coming weeks, or opened in a few days ago. So it's very exciting to see these places being really able to translate to the public what we've been working on for so many months with many artists.
Perfect. Would you like to share the presentation with us you prepared?
Do we now or after Manuel? Okay, cool, no problem.
If you want, you can start. That would be great. And then Manuel can continue, and then we dive into the discussion. That would be great.
So I'll be able to do it. Just a sec. Up.
So maybe just another hint for the audience. You can also put links for VR, XR exhibitions in the chat. If you have some interesting hints for us, that would be great.
So just to share screen. Up.
Do you see it?
Well, yeah. Sorry for Manuel. Do you want to start with Palais Augmenté? And I'm just going to work on my shared screen for, if that's fine by you.
Okay, yeah, that's cool. I mean, I'm sure you can, since you organized the whole project, you can say a lot more about the Palais Augmenté exhibition. However, I can already introduce my part, maybe. So, yeah, when was it? I think last year, September or October, we started working on the Palais Augmenté exhibition, which is really the Grand Palais in Paris, which is this amazing space. I think it's one of the, if not the biggest exhibition spaces in France and in Europe even, I think. At the moment, they are rebuilding the whole space. I think it's going to take 3 or 4 years or something. And so there's a space called Palais Éphémère, which is on the Champ de Mars, right in front of the Eiffel Tower, which kind of has the same scale as the original Grand Palais. And so since we're still really in production, I can show the preview image, which is this one. So in the background, you can see the Toralfeld to give you orientation. And then there's this huge hall, and maybe to give you a broader perspective of my work in general. So I'm interested in virtual spaces, in what it means to exist in both worlds, in the digital and the physical. But I'm also interested in creating experiences, like interactive experiences. And so there's always a question for me, like, what does a space bring? How does it work? What's important about it? And how can I intervene as an artist with digital tools usually? And in my aesthetic, I often use paintings. I often do paintings in virtual reality, which you can see here, like the lila line and the yellow, I don't know, shape in the center. And so this is drawn in virtual reality when I am wearing virtual reality glasses, and I put myself into the replication that I do of the exhibition piece that you can also see in the background. And so in this case, the exhibition will be in augmented reality. So the visitors will use their phones to experience the work. And then there's also this little character. So I'm moving from the outside to the inside of the image. Is this how you do artwork discussions? Maybe. So in the center, there's this little guy that helps you experience the space. He will also reappear in my work quite often because I use it. It's convenient to have this little gaming character to experience artwork. So he's kind of my avatar. I try to make it a bit more universal. So like it's not really shaped by any person, but like this rather dummy figure even. This little tag I made on the belly. But anyway, you will see this little guy interact with the work, and then you can of course also follow him with your AR camera in the Grand Palais Éphémère. Should I hand over to Victoire again, or show some more of my work?
If you want to, you can also show us the tour of Surprisingly This Rather Works, because we have the same character but in a different surrounding, right? In a different interaction as well. So that would be great. Yeah.
So maybe here I also have to start a bit. Oh yeah, this is Königgalerie in Berlin. You can see the St. Agnes Church right now, right, on Instagram. So this is the outside of the building, and here as well, I intervened with a digital sculpture that is on top of this St. Agnes building, which is, I think, in the 60s, built by Werner Dittmann, the architect, who had a lot of projects in Berlin. And this is a former church that later was turned into a gallery by Johann König, the gallerist, and Arno Brandlhuber, the renovation architect. So it's a beautiful space and a perfect space to experience art. So I recommend everyone to go there in person once you can travel to Berlin again, or maybe you are already here. And then this was a group show that I was invited to by Annika Maya and Johann. And in the beginning, I was invited to do a virtual reality piece in the church tower, so in the former bell tower. And since also before, like for NRW-Forum, I started from the physical space to build a virtual installation around it. Also, I did so that time, but I thought a bit more about how to make the work accessible, because not everybody will be in Berlin, and also not everybody wants to wear virtual reality glasses. So this was in February or something, and then of course nobody could come, and the exhibition was postponed because of the lockdown. But we already had the idea to make it accessible via an app, and now I try to show you that one. So I'm simulating it on the laptop, which sometimes causes bug, but I hope that it will work. You can download it still at home right now from Google Play or the Apple App Store. And then you have to type Königgalerie and you will be able to download it. So yeah, that's the bug. I will try again.
So Manuel, if you can do multitasking, maybe one question, because I found it really interesting with the NRW-Forum. As you said, you did the digital extension to the physical space as well as outside Königgalerie. And what we will see now is a kind of virtual rebuilding of the St. Agnes Church, right? Because you do like a virtual tour. How come that you kind of recreated the physical space in the virtual and not created a whole new world? What's the appeal to you to play with this physical architecture of the Königgalerie?
No, it works. That's cool. Yeah, this idea. I mean, yeah, I'm also wondering a lot if it makes sense to replicate the physical space in the virtual. But to me, in the end, it really does, because on the one hand, everything we do digitally also, except for really raw code, is like related to the physical world. So every color is like matching to the eye span of perception that has developed by experiencing reality. But also I think that it's kind of in between these media, like in between augmented reality and virtual reality, because this exhibition that you can see now, you could also have a version of it as AR, where you walk into the space and you only have the artworks placed inside of it, and the building is real. So I'm really interested in the boundary between those two worlds. And also for me, it's a question, where does the artwork begin? Because since people know the space already when they go there, like St. Agnes, and it's not like of course it's an immersive experience, but it's not like everything is maybe part of a new world, but only some bits. So you can also see immediately, like if you see my cursor, like the green sculpture is something different than the yellow sculpture. They are separated. And maybe also other artists have done something with this space before, and you can put it into a relation. And all this cultural technique of the white tube is very interesting here. And yeah, also I think I'm super interested in architecture and working with spaces that are existing, but also, for example, when we started working on the core Palais Éphémère, it wasn't even built yet. So you can also interfere with the future that is yet to come. And also the digital tools, they offer a possibility to deal with things that are not already built in the physical environment. And now I can also show you a bit of the exhibition. So you turn into this little character that we all also saw before already, and then it's a gaming experience. So, and one thing that you also cannot do in a physical gallery is like throw over the artworks, because maybe they will be destroyed. And here I added a script that will rebuild them.
Yeah, I was wondering actually if it's about maybe living out forbidden fantasies. You may not touch the art in the real world, but you can do it here.
Yeah, of course. It's I'm super interested in merging these things. I think also for the NRW-Forum exhibition, I showed this before already, the extension building that we did in 2017. This one I really showed for testing to a friend of mine who is more of a gamer than an arts person, and he had a completely different way of interacting with the space, I would say. He's like, oh, damn, where did you do something wrong? What can I destroy here? Like, well, when you're used to go to galleries, of course, you're not like, okay, I can destroy this and that. I also refer to this one later because this is a more rectangular digital painting that I made. And then here you can start the parkour, like the difficult, challenging jump and run gaming style of the exhibition. And here in the background, you can already see those blue bubbles that you already saw from the outside. You can see I did this a couple of times, so I don't run risk of falling down. Of course, I could, but I'm experienced, so I can do it. But don't be afraid to try. And then, yeah, here's those blue bubbles that we already saw outside, and inside there's this sculpture then. So here you're actually inside the former bell tower of St. Agnes Church, but it's like really transformed a lot by virtual and digital means.
Yeah, you're definitely better in this game than I am. I tried it, of course, as well, but I had to try a lot to reach the upper part, but it's really fun, yeah.
Yeah, we were also thinking a lot about how difficult should it be, because you can make it super easy, of course. Then it's not really a game. Yeah, so I hope most people survived by now. You can't really die, but yeah, definitely some experience needed. And here's the also the church tower that you can go into. So what's also interesting is those two spaces are kind of overlaid. So where I was walking before is actually at the same place, like where I am now, but in the between time the architecture was switched. So you can be in two places at the same time, kind of. Yeah, so much about this one.
We have a question in the chat. Somebody wants to know which app you use to create the project.
There's a lot of software involved, but mostly for creating the app, it's Unity 3D, like a 3D engine. There's Unity and Unreal, but I use Unity. And then for creating the content, I use 3D Studio Max. You can also use Blender, which is free, or Cinema 4D maybe. And then for physics simulation, Houdini. What else? Yeah, multiple smaller tools maybe.
Cool. Cool. So it's not Super Mario Land, it's Super Manuel Land.
Kind of, yeah. Maybe what's interesting. This one we were standing in front of before. And that, so this was in April 19, 2020. And in the meantime, it turned into this one, like a physical piece that you really can destroy and should not destroy. So those ones exist right now. So you can really, that's really the closest frontier between like physical piece and digital piece. And what's also interesting is that I think oftentimes the physical world becomes virtual by I don't know, scanning images or 3D scanning spaces. But what I do is really drawing in the virtual world and then producing it surprisingly smoothly. So those pieces, the physical pieces, they are really accurate because of CNC milling technology, but also super glossy and smooth because the factory or the workshop with whom I collaborate on them, they really do a very good job, which you can also see in the reflections over here. So that's also interesting, I think, when you look at those. Those light reflections are the virtual ones from virtual St. Agnes. And those are like physical light rays that you can see.
And it's also really interesting, I think, how you create them, because it's not a painting, it's not a sculpture, or it's maybe both. Can you tell us a little bit more how you create those works?
Oh yeah, I'm still struggling with telling the medium if it's painting or if it's sculpture. Yeah, because they are really like, I mean, in the virtual they are like paintings because it's really like a process of moving your hand in space and then making this line, which gets the volume from the software. So yeah, that's why it's so a little bit balloony maybe, but it's rather like a line in space. And then there's a like complex kind of conversion happening, like file formats are changed and so on. And then it's moved to a CNC milling machine. Maybe I can illustrate that so everyone can picture it. Yeah, basically like this, I guess. So yeah, this little head, drilling head, knows exactly where I was painting in the virtual space, and then it makes those beautiful objects out of it. And there's also this one, which also is an interesting shape, maybe. Yeah, and the colors, they are from the digital world also, because, for example, galleries, you paint them really, really white because that's the most not neutral space. But in digital world, you use very strong colors. Maybe I can also show this here. Don't know what's going to open. Here, that's a text editor for coding. So already here you can see that some parts of the text are blue and some are gray. So you can immediately see what's important for what kind of thing you want to do. And that's really inspiring to me. Maybe you have to interrupt me if I tell them too many things, but this stems from the Cornell box, which was used in early computer technology to build these virtual worlds. So they really created this little box with the strong colors on the left and the right side. And what's important here is that on the white block, you can also see this indirect illumination that is also a bit green. And so they coded the algorithms regarding those two boxes. And that's what I find super interesting with those colors, because you can really tear apart how the physical world also works and how it's turned into a computer world. And I found that so inspiring that, wait a second, earlier in NRW-Forum, we also did this, but like on a huge scale. So yeah, this is the same exhibition with the virtual extension building. And here we really turned the walls into green and lila and blue and red. And also there are those reflective columns. So you can also see this effect in the reflections, that you can see the green wall here and immediately tell, so this light ray here is coming from here and not from anywhere else, which would be difficult if it would all be white walls.
There is another question, Manuel, for you in the chat. Somebody wants to know more about your relation with Johann König. The question is why you did your installation for König Gallery or at St. Agnes. Wouldn't there have been another digital opportunity? So maybe you can tell a little more on your on your relation to Johann König in its gallery.
Yeah, I mean, Johann did the exhibition together with Annika Meyer, who also had really great exhibitions on art and social media, and then therefore also technology. at MDBK Leipzig, for example. And so she invited me to that exhibition. And what I really find super interesting and cool about Johann is that he's really interested in these kind of possibilities of the digital. Same thing for Alain Bieber, the director of the NRW-Forum, who invited me to do that show, because I think for an institution or even a commercial gallery, it's still a big step to go in this direction, because there's a lot of new things you're confronted with and new problems also. And for both of them, or all of them, moving in that direction is something that I find super interesting. And so it was really cool to work with him and Annika and Alain also. And yeah, we did a live stream when we launched the exhibition 1 year ago in April. And yeah, we were really wondering what this means in like the context of a commercial gallery, because there was no real way of not a super big like digital art market, but now of course things changed a bit, but maybe we get to that in another point.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Manuel. Maybe for now we can move on to Victoire, if you're all set. I think you have to, yeah.
Yeah, do you hear me well?
Yes.
Okay. I just have a little bit, I'm very sorry, guys, to all of you, because I must admit I was meeting with some people from the cultural sphere in southern France, and my train was very, very, very late. So I basically just joined before we came live. So I had this little trouble to share screen. So I'm gonna tell you a bit more about what I do. And if you do guys have like a couple of lines in the chat, I'm very sorry to be so late about this, about how to share screen in there. But in the meantime, I'm going to tell you a bit more about what we do. So I'm working, so my company is called, I'm coming from the, as I said before, more art house cinema at the beginning, and came to immersive worlds and immersive experiences quite quickly, and was very excited by this. And what I've always, and that's how we met with Manuel, is what I've always wanted to do is how to make these experiences available to the audience, to the publics, and many publics, like not just like, you know, art, contemporary art, you know, gallery, people going out to this kind of places. And that's how I came to work for a festival which is called VR Arles Festival in southern France, which is part of a basically the biggest like photography festival worldwide. And the really cool thing that we had there was that we had this space for 2 months, and we were able to showcase about 15 to 20 artworks in VR for 2 months with a public that was already there and very curious. From there, we transformed, basically a little bit, like tried to make something new out of it in the past couple of years after confinement. And we had this new offer, and I wanted to show you, and I will share. I'm sorry if I don't have, like, you only see my face, like videos and like images would be much cooler, but I'll try and show you this right after. But basically the idea was this new festival that we are holding in Paris, and that just opened to the public after being like, you know, we set this up like a month ago, and now it's, you know, it's finally last Saturday open to the public until like mid-July. So we're very happy to be able to share this with, you know, as many people as, you know, possible. And so it's a festival which is dedicated to immersive experiences. In a sense, and that's what's really, and that's how we came to know each other with also Manuel, is, you know, what can the virtual do in connection with the physical world, basically, what kind of questions does it ask? And when we started to imagine this festival in Paris, which just opened, we wondered about this, you know, the idea of the virtual journey. What does it mean to go into the virtual? Why do we go into the virtual? Because we don't really need to go into the virtual if there's no good reason. So we need to have like a really good reason to go into there, because it's isolating. It could be kind of, you know. And so we started really wondering about this idea of like virtual journeys, and we called the festival, like we named it Les Ailleurs, which means the elsewheres, but really not in the sense of like Ready Player One, going into like, you know, really elsewhere to forget about everything which is real, or like virtual tourism. It's really how you can go elsewhere to better connect to what's actually there. And I think that's also what we, you know, in a sense, with Palais Augmenté tried to address with many different directions and intentions from the artists. So, and just to conclude, and I'm sorry, and I'll send you all the slides and presentation afterwards, but basically the idea was, and with Les Ailleurs in Paris, we wanted to bring, like, help bring the audience into the virtual experiences. Because when you go into these journeys, it's kind of hard. It's like, it can be very, very demanding. So, and we really asked ourselves, how can you not only mediate this, like have really people who help like get into and out of the experiences, but also have kind of themes and journeys, and not only like just VR pods, but like, you know, really something which is very thematic. So we have 3 journeys, one of them being really about like human and non-human. So how do you connect to non-human perspectives? The other one about intimacy, and the third one about like parallel dimensions. So you basically go very far away to better come back and connect to the actual world. So we really worked on this in terms of set design, and you know, so I'm just going to conclude, because I've been quite, you know, I talked a lot without many visuals, but.
Sorry to interrupt, Victoire, but would you maybe like to send us the PDF and we try to share it on our screen? Just try it, and if it's not working, then we continue verbally.
Yeah, just via email. Yeah.
Oh, by email. That's a very good idea. You know, when you're working in tech, it's usually that you're bad at it.
Yeah, somehow we're still all learning. Yeah.
Thank you guys for being so comprehensive.
I've already posted the link to the Les Ailleurs website for the audience, so that they can follow it later on.
Yeah, and we can like share also this like a teaser, but like let me just send you what I had, and if you share it, that's really cool. Just a sec. Up. So there you have. Just you just received it. And really sorry again. I was not in Arles today, and I really came back so late. Like the train, I was like in the train station, and like counting like, you know, 5, 10, 15 minutes. More. And was like, oh my God.
Oh, you're fine.
So I don't know if you received it.
Marina, will you share it?
Once you I don't have it yet.
Me neither, but as soon as we receive it, you can share it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you should receive it like in the coming like a couple of minutes.
Great.
So you just continue, Victoire, and I'm going to.
Yeah. So basically what we wanted to do, and you'll see a few images, and maybe Alina or Marina, if one of you can because I'm really very good at tech, but like if you like type teaser Les Ailleurs, you can find like a teaser maybe to share, just to have like this, you know, basic intentions, which was why do we want to go? Because I think it's very important today to ask also, and especially with VR, why do you want to go into a headset? Why do you want to go into this virtual world, and how, and who will bring you there? Like immersive experiences today, I mean, it's like everyone is talking about immersive in like so many fields, but do we really want to be immersed, and by who and when? And I think it's a very important question to ask, is that we want to be immersed. I mean, it's interesting to be immersed when you know who's driving you, who's like, why do you go there, and what are the intentions? And I think it's really something that we really try to do with Palais Augmenté. And I'm going to, before showing you images of Les Ailleurs, just to like make this, connection with Palais Augmenté, and it was supposed to be the other way around, but how do we came to work on this proposition for Grand Palais Éphémère? At the beginning, it was like an intuition by the two co-organizers, which was Grand Palais and Fisheye, which is a media photo agency, media gallery, and they're doing a lot in terms of like searching into like new images and what it means to be, what is image, what is the image today, the contemporary image, what does it mean? And AR, when they first told me about this, I'm coming from more like other visual, like films and VR, and AR was kind of, not too sure. Don't really know what to do about this, like, this huge space and AR, and really, I don't really see this coming through. And then they were quite pushy, and we kind of like brainstormed, and were at the beginning trying to find, existing artworks in AR and see how we could make them exist in this like huge space. It really didn't work, but like didn't work at all. Like it was it was horrible. Like you can't like make like, this like tiny AR thing exist into this huge space for this kind of project. So it's really not working. And that's when we just thought, what do we want to do? We want to have like, connections between, we want to have connections between the audience, of course, and also the space, like this amazing space. Like, how do you inhabit this monumental space and initiate this kind of dialogue between artists and the audience in this space? And I think it's like, with AR, what was really interesting in like this curating aspect of, commissioning new works with, we're like this kind of fusion of our beings and the virtual, I think today creates this kind of momentum. Because we are like structured, of course, in the real world by our senses, and it is through, I guess, aesthetics that our senses today can give us access to somehow the invisible. And I think it's what drove us with AR and this project is, working with, so like talented, really highly talented artists, to create this connection between like, an artistic intention, like virtual intention, the audience, and a specific space, which is, so I'm not the only one struggling with, screen sharing. Thank you, because I'm very bad tonight, so I apologize again, but
this is kind of funny.
I'm sure you're going to be better than I was, so you have like a far away road to be like.
But maybe one question in between. Victoire, you at Fabbula as well, you also create exhibitions, but you also commission and co-produce artworks. And how was it with Palais Augmenté? I was wondering.
Well, that's a little bit what I was saying, so I'm going to be maybe a little brief in that, the way I'm going to answer this is that we first tried to spot, and like really, what was existing out there. And there are, very interesting AR projects, and we try to put them into this monumental space, and it was horrible. Basically, like, it was like not interesting. It was like not working. It was, and I remember we had this meeting with like the head of RMN, like, which is like this huge curator, like, you know, Manuel, you know him, Chris, you know, Chris Durkan. He's like, and he really told us, like, guys, be more audacious. Like, you know, if you want to go into AR, which is like basically like a medium that surrealist artists would have like loved and like delve into this, try something better. And we were like, we had like this monumental space, and what's interesting with AR is this, you know, we have like a relationship between the audience, the artwork, and the space itself. So it needs to be somehow connected to the space, and that's how we basically came to you know, get in touch with a few, like very few artists that we really liked. You know, we loved the practices and felt it was connecting to this idea of, you know, a dialogue with, you know, and Manuel, you will comment on this, but like this idea of a dialogue with the space itself. And basically it was a carte blanche. Huh? It was, you know, there's the space, there's AR. Like, go ahead, like, what can
now
you
it
imagine?
kind of works, right?
Yes, it works very well, and but maybe it's a bit late to get back to les Ailleurs, maybe, but because we are really into Palais Augmenté, I guess, right now, and like AR and this relationship, which I think is really interesting, because I came to like AR, which was quite new to me, to be frank.
Yeah, Manuel, maybe you can tell us a little bit, because as we spoke about already, your character appears the same one as in the work, surprisingly, this rather works, and now it's the AR experience. How was it different to you to adapt it to this project, or to develop this artwork?
Yeah, I mean, of course, it's different as a medium, and of course, the visitor or the person who experiences it is way more present, more involved in a way. And so, yeah, I was thinking a lot about how to adapt to this new situation practically, because you can do things that you cannot do. I remember like being interested in becoming the character and being able to walk in different places, just because the possibilities are then even bigger, because you're not bound to the perspective of the visitor. But I think it's also power that you have your own body still, and you don't lose it, and you experience the space that still is there. Oh yeah, that's maybe I also did in a earlier exhibition. I tried to build a virtual space, and I don't know, during a few weeks or a month, I was wearing the VR headset every time. I built an extension for Frankfurter Kunstverein. And then I went there and I thought, okay, maybe in my brain, the space, I remember it because I experienced it so often. But I didn't really, because I think to a spatial experience, there's still a lot more. Like, what does the space feel like? How big is it? The echo, the smell, maybe. Also, the vision in VR headsets, of course, still is different. And in AR, you can work with that. It exists. And so you're really closer to the work in a way.
Yeah, and you still can interact with the objects as well, right? The character can jump on them and they contract and swell, if I got it right.
The image that I showed before of the yellow part is animated, and there's a huge ball falling into it. So it's still is a huge, like, impressive. Physically, it would be like really dangerous, probably. Yeah, the character, you can follow it with your camera and with your phone, so you don't really walk it, because then you would lose. Yeah, it's really like transferring from viewing something from the outside to steering the guy. I tried it, but it's super difficult.
It's funny because with Manuel we had like this, like there was your initial project, and then we came up with, you know, within a few weeks with having, you know, your artwork being like the poster of the festival, and then working on a filter for like a big, you know, French media, like a digital media, who's like you know, thousands of, you know, millions of like you know, people like online in Instagram and stuff, and you know, have like declinations of the work. And I was, maybe one of my question would be how do you, if you take into account, you know, the audience when you conceive, you know, because your work is really inspired about, you know, like this, you know, digital era, and how, you know, gamification kind of, you know, influences a lot our ways of living. So how is it something that you take into account when you're, you know, designing the you know, some virtual work in terms of space and, you know, the work itself, or not?
Yeah, I'm super interested in those aspects of playing, of becoming somebody else, but also maybe not, doesn't have to be a person, but you can also, I really liked what you mentioned about the non-human perspective in Les Ailleurs. So maybe also this idea, but at the same time, yeah, how to challenge people, but also how to imagine a different way of being in a space and of living also. But I also think that's at a very beginning. I mean, I started to work on 3D projects or like virtual spaces because I was a bit bored by the games like 10 or 15 years ago. And still, I think there's a lot of different experiences you could do, and it's hard to find a way, but also super interesting.
Victoire, in times we can't travel to Paris, is there anything we can see of Les Ailleurs or Palais Augmenté here in Germany, via internet, for example? Anything you might suggest?
So guys, after an hour, I found how to mute and unmute myself and share screens. Sorry, I must again apologize. It's really because I counted on like an hour before the live to do like all of the checks, and my train was very late. So now I'm just going to share my screen to show you just a little bit like a video of Les Ailleurs. And if any one of you comes to Paris, I'm going to on the chat, hey, that's my email. So feel free, if any one of you is coming to Paris, to get in touch so that you can have, like, basically the idea of the show is to have thematic journeys. So you book like a ticket for an hour to an hour and a half, and you go into either voyage sauvage or intimate transports or parallel dimensions. But you get in there and you have basically three virtual experiences, most of them into the headsets, so a lot of VR, but not only. There's also interactive screens and audio, spacious audio. It's like it's really very cool. So I'm just going to show you the video because I was very long at, you know, making this accessible, and talked a lot. And I said I was going to do this, so I'm going to do this. Share screen, haha. Écran entier, trop forte. So now, hopefully, you will see this. This is a little bit of, just a little, like, Sorry, was this working? Did you had like the image and sound? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Sorry again for like, you know, the not being able to put this out before, being late, but you know, it's if any one of you comes to Paris or, you know, want to have like any discussion about like how we, you know, program this and why we do this, or have any, feel free to email me, really. Like, and Palais Augmenté, so Les Ailleurs is from, it opened last weekend and it's up until mid-July, and Palais Augmenté is this 3 days event in this amazingly new space, like monumental space by Villemotte, a huge architect on Champ de Mars in Paris. So every one of you has a chance to be there on June, sorry, 19th or 20th. That would be a pleasure to, you know, welcome you there.
And the tickets, I think, are available next week, right?
Palais Augmenté, you can book them already. It's free.
Oh, you can?
Yeah, I think so. If it's like, if it's not now, it's going to be in a couple of days. But normally,
Okay.
like the website was launched, so it's like within a couple of days.
Great.
It's going to go quite like it's basically 10,000 square meters, so it's quite huge. So we're fine with COVID in terms that we can welcome quite a few visitors at the same time. But it's only 2-3 days. So if you're in Paris, try and maybe like, you know, go on the website quite soon, because it's a really short event. So
yeah, great. And Les Ailleurs, I think on the website you have the trailers of the artworks, and even I think Book of Distance, for example, you can also download the experience or experience it via your own glasses, right?
Well,
if you don't have the chance to
So
travel.
Exactly. Well, we have 3 programs. Basically, we tried to, with COVID, to, you know, offer what we could in terms of different access points before the public opening. So there's, of course, the festival, and we were so happy that opened to the public last Saturday for 2 months. Then we have a very small, like it's a small program for audiences in France, and mostly like, you know, Paris and like Grand Paris, with, you know, basically loaning of, you know, Quest headsets to discover artworks that we deliver for free for 48 hours. And then we, on Viveboard, we do share as much as we can of the selection. Of course, it's always licensing with, you know, the artists, and some of them have, you know, exclusive contracts and stuff and cannot put them online. But half of the selection of the festival is available on Les Ailleurs Viveboard webpage. So if you do own a headset, you know, feel free to get in there and, you know, wander into the selection.
So this is our chance, guys. Alina, I have to admit that I didn't get it. Did we pose the question of Leon Elland about the possibilities regarding the digital world?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. So there was a question that you might answer, either you, Manuel, or you, Victoire, as you like. Leon wanted to know, what do you think are the key possibilities regarding the digital world if you compare it to the physical? So what thrills you?
Manuel.
Yeah, there are many things, I guess, and many levels also. From technical point of view, maybe it's interesting that in VR the world is rebuilt 60 times per second, approximately, or more. So 60 times a second, you have a chance to change what the experience is, and there's a lot that comes with that. So those dynamics and also connecting people from all over the world is really cool. But also in terms of aesthetics, that's brand new, interesting possibilities that are kind of, you can influence on so many levels, because I don't know, if you create some surface, it's really up to you to decide what the properties are. You have nothing to start with except for the software itself. But then also, what does it mean for us to leave the physical. Also, Victoire, you talked very interestingly about this. Why do we want to go there, and how, and who introduces it to this? And those questions are really important, I think. Should I answer them? I can't.
That's good. Thank you. Thank you very much. Alina, I think we should bring some of the comments that we had today in the Telegram chat, right? Okay. Let me tell you, there was one really heavy user who comments a lot and has a lot of discussions and topics, and he wanted to know virtual reality or real virtuality or just reality. Is the term virtual valid anymore?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of wording, yeah. I mean, what I try not to use as a word, how do we distinguish virtual and real world? Yeah, that's a bit difficult because it sounds a bit like the virtual doesn't exist, but I think the boundary is really blurred here. If you think of Elbphilharmonie, for example, they made those amazing renderings. I thought, yeah, what a wonderful building, and they struggled 10 years to build it. I mean, that's probably also political reasons, but still, yeah, there's this digital image that has a huge influence, and then it's decided to build maybe. So yeah, it's really changing, but on the other hand, we still need words to distinguish both because still they are different, of course.
And the word, Victoire, you want to say something?
First, I wanted to say I'm sorry in Arles, even with like my train being really late, the network in Arles is very poor. So sorry about like disconnecting and reconnecting. But Manuel, I had this very like naive question also for you. It was, how did you come to working with digital immersive medium? How did it start? What led you there? Like, you know, what was the, like, you know, your attraction to?
Yeah, I mean, in the very beginning, those digital worlds from games that I found kind of boring at the age of, like, I don't know, 15 or something, I wanted to change like game environments into something like shooting videos or something. And then after short time in art school, I noticed those skills, and they were really like powerful to me. Because so many limits that you have in the real world, of course, you don't have them in the virtual. And so I started with Float Gallery, which is an online project in 2012 or something. And this was really browser based, so you can only skip through images and maybe have a 360 walkthrough space. But that already contained most of the ideas that I'm still working on. And then that's also cool about technology, that there's a huge industry working for you to provide you better possibilities. So in 2016, I think it was, or 17, like, hey, there's VR classes now. And those virtual worlds that I built before, they are easily accessible now. So I think there's really something constant, even in this fast changing world of digital software.
Yeah, speaking of accessibility, also a comment by the users was that VR, especially with the headsets and the goggles, is a bit, or the glasses, still kind of in its infancy, because you still need the glasses or the headset, and it's a bit, yeah, annoying sometimes. A lot of technical gadgets. How do you see the developments there? Or, I mean, Victoire talked about virtual journeys, and AR is a lot different. What do you think about it? Is it still in its infancy, you would say?
I think so. Yes, on the one hand. Also, what's also interesting is the headsets. I think they are developed a lot on like mobile phone technology, and I think especially the Oculus Quest is like same price range as a new phone, but people of course prefer phones because they have a lot more like possibilities, and maybe that's the same for VR.
Do you know? Yeah, well, VR. We've seen something that was quite interesting in the past few years. Is that for 2 years we've seen this kind of curve of very high expectations of VR becoming some kind of standard, which is of course was impossible because of the lack of content, the lack of standard in terms of technologies, and for distribution purposes as well, and also just cultural. For cultural reasons, like it's a very new thing to get into a headset. I feel so there was this kind of disappointment with VR. We came to the curve being like, hey, expectations are like this, and then we both get down. And since the beginning of the confinement, which was more than 12 months ago now, there was the release of the Quest 2, and the sales of the Quest 2 within 5 months exceeded the sales of any Oculus sales anytime, basically, within 5 years. And I think it's a question of, so we're getting there, but there we don't really know what this is. Getting there is not having a Quest 2 at home. Getting there is something quite different, which is going to be some kind of mixed reality, usage, and we really have no idea of what it's going to be like. Is it going to be glasses? Is it going to be of course, the Facebook branch of, AR VR is really strong at the moment. It's one of the main, developing parts of the company. So it's something that we have to take into account in terms of business. But really what matters is, and that's what we, why also we wanted to go into AR with Fisheye and RMN was, it's kind of scary in a sense if it's being hacked by big companies just to sell products and big be it's kind of invasive, and there's technologies where when they are in the hands of artists become so powerful. I really frankly did not believe into autistic. I hadn't seen anything really exciting in terms of, autistic intentions in AR a year ago, but I hadn't searched a lot, and getting into this project of Palais Augmenté and getting to know Manuel and the other artists and getting into those new creations became really quite exciting. And we asked the question of, what kind of AR or augmented virtual realities do we want? What do we want? And I think it's a big question to address, because it's in the public sphere. It's going to be everywhere. So it's and it's you guys, Manuel, it's you guys who ask and address it in the most interesting ways, of course.
Yeah, maybe just a small hint from our side. We also had an exhibition called In VR We Trust by Daniel Hanks and Clemens Schörl. It's really interesting because they critically look at their own medium of virtual reality. So I put the link in the chat, and I think you can still check it out. And as you said, Victoire, we can't see what's in the future, but maybe let's try even. So what's your wish maybe of XR, of virtual journeys and so on in museums maybe? Because you organize this temporary exhibitions, and Manuel Rosner Gallery is also a temporary space, but how do you see the possibilities for XR in the museum of the future, or is there a future for it? What do you think?
Manuel, or should I go first?
Go first. I'm curious.
Well, I'm gonna be quite quick, but to me, and that's we've been organizing in France, in Arles, during les rencontres de la photographie, an immersive writing residency for 5 years now, and it's a kind of it's not like a writing residency in the sense that you spend a lot of time writing per se. It's like a 8-day week time, and each day we have experts or artists coming to speak about immersive sounds, coming about like, you know, real time, what it is to be working with, you know, digital medium and theater, for instance, and like what it is to be like the body in the space. What can we say with this? And this is to me what's key about all of these mediums, because I'm not coming from a tech background. I don't have a tech background. I'm coming from the film industry. It's that it's new and it's like ever evolving, and the fact that this medium, multi-sensory medium, are, you know, so fast evolving, are like this kind of, you know, sandbox for artists who, you know, want or have this, you know, desire or intention to go and to get into, like, you know, the fabrics basically of the thing. But it's, you know, it's new forms. It's just new forms. It's a new language, new languages, you know, plural. And that's, I think, and with, you know, all the adjectives that we all, you know, usually put into this, you know, medium, which is like agency, interaction, hybrids, emotions, like this. There are so many things, but it's these mediums, plural, that basically are evolving so fast and so liaising with and in, you know, in connection with the like, you know, social matters basically, that to me it's something which is in the hands of artists amazingly interesting to observe and to explore. And it's a way to practice like new matters, to be into the world, to be in connection with new perspectives in ways that you cannot have with other medium. Like so to me, when you use these mediums, which are for a lot of them quite consuming with, you know, in terms of energy and like, you know, it's because you're using them for, you know, something very special. Like in terms of, you cannot do this with another medium. It's you have to use this medium to say something with the form, which is saying something about your relationship to the world now. And it's practices, I think, and we have a lot, I think, to, and Manuel, you will probably like bounce back on this, but we have, I think, and I'm not a gamer, I've never played video games, frankly, but I think we do have a lot to learn about these practices as well, in terms of rehearsing emotions, rehearsing ways to be. And, you know, the artwork which won Les Ailleurs, in Paris, we programmed about 10 artworks, and there was artworks like narrative, like stuff that had been in Sundance, in other festivals, a lot of premieres as well. And we had a couple of video games, but only a couple of video games. And the artwork which won, by far, and the jury was coming from, like, you know, Cédric Lapiche, filmmaker. There was the head of Rencontre d'Arles. We had like many different kind of, you know, people also very familiar with XR, was Paper Beast by Eric Chahi. And I don't know if you guys know Paper Beast by Eric Chahi. Is one of the like amazing creators of video games in France. This, you know, amazing game, like, you know, 15 years ago, and he's been working on Paper Beast, which is PC, but also it's got a VR version. It's incredible, and it's getting into a VR game where there's no rule. You don't know how this have to do, and you've got this like this ecosystem, and you've got to try and learn to get along with them, to see how you can like unfold the narrative of the experience. And it's frankly amazing. So, you know, if you had a chance to because you can find it online. So if some of you have headsets, VR headsets, if you can check this out, it's frankly quite amazing. And it was like, it was a game which won the, you know, the festival.
Yeah, I think we saw a small part in the trailer as well, right? Of Paper Bees with the elephant
and basically like the jury, because we're quite constrained when you're like in a festival museum, you know, and because we have like 10 artworks, we are only showing chapter 1, but audiences so far just basically wanted to stay in it, and they, you know, and even people like which were not like gamers, you know, people. And I think it's something that's quite important to us at Fabbula as well, is how to try and merge different art fields, you know. And I think we've got to learn a lot of, you know, things to learn from the merging of, you know, connections between, you know, contemporary art and video games, or, you know, performing arts and, you know, VR. They are like connection like this, which are incredibly, you know, exciting in terms of new forms and new ways to connect to the actual world. Manuel, I'm gonna let you speak now because I spoke too much.
No, it's really interesting. I immediately want to have a look at Paper Beast. I didn't know it so far, but it sounds super good. But yeah, for me, it's also something that you touched on earlier. I mean, for the future, I hope that it's a diverse and a bright one, because all the huge corporations with their own business issues in mind, that's maybe not the best one for every one of us. So it's super cool if creating art inspires people to maybe to go in that direction by themselves and change the way those things are developed. Because it's really right now that the world, the metaverse, digital AR, XR world is shaped, and I hope as many people as possible take part in it, and not only the corporations. Yeah.
And you know, something just to conclude on what you just said, but like something which is very important to us is that we are organizing a new festival, and I'll share info with you, you know, in a few weeks, but in southern France, in Arles, in Arles. And one of the things that we really try to address is how do we translate, you know, real time, 3D real time, and, you know, to other audiences and to young audiences. And it was something, so we have this new partnership with a school, like an amazing school in southern France, about like virtual ecology, and it's really something to us which is crucial. Is like we've got these tools that are so, you can do so many things with them, like, you know, 3D real time, like, you know, you can like, they are like photogrammetry, videogrammetry, like there's so many things that you can do and create. But how to empower people that, you know, needs to be empowered with these tools. And I think it's something which is very, very important. It's like also this kind of educational, you know, maybe aspect to it, with, you know, there's virtual tools being kind of everywhere and invasive as well. So it was about like choosing what you want to have in the virtual worlds, what you want to see and experiment.
Thank you so much, both of you, for encouraging the younger parts of our community to turn themselves into virtual reality, games design, virtual worlds. I remember when we discussed the title of the talk, Manuel, when you said, oh, it's so much more than only virtual reality or augmented reality. We are really talking about new experiences, whole journeys, another mindset. And I thank you really very much for this talk. It was very interesting. We did the first time in such a complete view on virtual worlds. And yeah, there are a lot of links in the chat. They are always visible. So come back later on Crowdcast and grab them. And yeah, look at what Victoire and Manuel did so far and published. And yeah, from my side, from the museum room, thank you so much for this talk. And I hope to see you both again in what kind of world ever.
And yeah, you can watch the replay here on Crowdcast as well as on YouTube, just for the audience. And well, yeah, thank you so much from NRW-Forum as well.
Yeah, and Marina and Alina, thank you both very much to, you know, for all, you know, organizing this, and everyone who's present. Just know that it was much, much more well organized than what I showed you tonight. I should have been much more prepared, but it's strange in southern France, so that's that's how it is. But it was a pleasure to be with you tonight, and you've got our contact details, so feel free if you have any question or if you want to dig into something that we mentioned. We're here. And Manuel.
And if you want to know more, our next talk will be on NFTs. It's going to be the 24th of June. Same platform, all the information on nextmuseum.io. And yeah, we're looking very much forward.
And Marina, I'm going to be there on NFT. I'm going to be there because we have we have a lot in this
cool.
as well. So I'll be there in the audience.
Very good.
Super nice. I'm also curious.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you very much for attending.
Thank
you so much.
Have a great
Bye-bye.
evening and see you soon.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Ciao. Thank you.
Ciao, ciao.